there's a potential that some of those rules could be inaccurate, that might need to be updated. People are struggling with mental health issues, homelessness issues, drug issues. There are so many complexities going on between a police officer and a victim out there on the street. They tend to be urgent situations, emergency situations where human beings are trying to make decisions on a moment's notice. Sometimes we get things wrong. So I would welcome the opportunity to evaluate those occurrences and any other incidents that happen in the city of Pasadena before I can formulate an honest and prudent opinion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was time.
Mr. Campos, once again, thank you so much. Good to see you, neighbor, and thank you for applying. Really appreciate you throwing your hat in the ring.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
I believe the third applicant is with us. Yes, it's Mr. Johnston.
Derek Johnson. So our third applicant is Derek Johnson for the night. Derek, you have not, are you with us? Yes. Mr. Johnson, you're on mute.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, I can hear you and I can see you. Good to see you. Thank you so much for participating in this process with us today. We have community members, as you've seen the email, who will be scoring and deliberating at the end of the meeting. We should have who our commissioner will be. With that being said, we're going to let you take it from here, and please give us your introduction. Mr. Johnson, pleasure to meet you.
Sure. First, thanks to everyone for allowing me to be here in the space today. As you stated before, my name is Derek Johnson. I am a 8-year resident this April of Pasadena. What compels me to actually serve on the commission is both my professional experience and my lived experience as a Black man are the catalysts leading to this moment, this opportunity. Professionally, I actually now currently sit on the Human Relations Commission, Los Angeles County, and ad hoc, and I sit on the ad hoc commission for policing and community relations. I also was the lead writer for the motion for Los Angeles County to actually develop the Civilian Oversight Commission for Los Angeles County, and previously was the senior deputy for Supervisor Mark Willie Thomas for the Board of Supervisors, and held his post as his advisor for the Public Safety and Justice portfolio.
Okay. Question one.
Thank you. Question number one, Mrs. Smith.
Yes, thank you. So thank you for applying for this position. And I'd like to know, how would you help to ensure that our African American and Latin youth are safe while in our community?
First and foremost, I think you have to work to eliminate or at least manage the implicit and explicit racial and identity bias by collaborating with community groups to design and facilitate police training to mitigate this issue. I think secondly, you want to publicly demonstrate the use of information collected through the Racial and Identity Profiling Act by advocating for state resources to be reallocated to law enforcement agencies and neutral third-party facilitators to increase data analytics and capacity for public dissemination. I think transparency and accountability are critical as it relates to what's happening in the Black and brown communities. And then I think you also look at the federal and state laws, in addition to law enforcement policies to end what's classified as qualified immunity and providing public access to information about police officers involved in both complaints and misconduct investigations, including their prior histories and the results of those investigations. So I think all those things in collaboration leads to better mitigation as it relates to how law enforcement engages in our communities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is Rodney D Wallace, and I'm going to be asking the second question.
Okay.
The work of this commission is to support enhance, develop, and strengthen community and police relations? How might culture and communication support your efforts?
Well, again, I think we must come together collectively to build a new normal that prioritizes human dignity and repairs the damages done by discriminatory policies and practices. Equitable law enforcement is only established when all our communities have fully engaged in determining their own agency and need for public safety. And I think that this is, really significant, as we look at how to change these kind of unilateral, asymmetrical kind of power dynamics, right? Which have, allowed law enforcement agencies to operate with qualified immunity. And so a paradigm shift is required from traditional kind of punitive systems that disproportionately impact vulnerable communities to a healing approach that empowers community stakeholders to handle appropriate social issues by having access to wider safety net infrastructures, as an example, for like service providers, law enforcement. Deployment can possibly be scaled back proportionately to the critical needs. So eliminating the negative impacts of, punitive law enforcement approaches, such as criminalization of youth and lethal uses of force, I think are really considered best practices for improving police and community relations.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Question number 3.
Yes, Mr. Johnson, Pastor Corwin Manning, President of the Clergy Community Coalition.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for being here this
Thank
evening.
you for the time.
If you were to serve on the commission and the facts of a particular situation lead you to a different conclusion than the official position of the city or of the police department, how would you handle that?
Well, I think the critical statement or word that you utilize are facts. To feed you in a specific direction, then you have to follow that lead. If the city takes a different position other than what the evidence is presenting, then that potentially is problematic and can cause more discontent between community and law enforcement officials. I think if you make information of all incidents, including all relevant geographic and demographic data available, and make that publicly and accessible, I think this information, really is the catalyst for reporting back in a public forum, such as an oversight commission, right? At an oversight meeting, town halls, accountability and transparency and data are all critical components to actually mitigating what needs to happen as it relates to next steps and service delivery and whatever decision that the city council makes. So again, my vantage point centers on what evidence is being provided and the facts that are being presented, and any opposition to what's actually on the table should be questioned and challenged.
But just a follow up to that same question, would you be comfortable sharing a difference of opinion, even if it's within the commission itself?
Well, we don't know each other, sir, but I have no problem with having a stance that is in opposition to what other people might be seeing. If, again, the positioning centers on the evidence and the facts. If the facts are leading us in a specific direction, then you have to actually stay firm on that positioning.
That's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, is there a question? Was that the question 4 or is there? Okay.
We have time for questions. We have question 4 now. And that will be asked by.
Should I ask that question?
Perfect. Heavenly. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Heavenly Hughes, and I'm one of the founders of My Tribe Rise. Hello, Derek Johnson. Nice to see you here.
See you again. Yeah, you as well.
Yeah, for sure. So the question I would like to ask is, what does police reform look like to you?
Well, there are a number of different aspects to police reform. I talked about a little bit earlier, some of that stuff centers on implicit and complicit mandatory training, not a lot of training that's available now is by proxy or by the allowance of the police to decide whether or not they are put in those classes. I think that across the board, it has to be something that is like the whole cadet and academy design. It's It's problematic that there isn't more, not only implicit and complicit training, but I think that it's also really interesting to look at the psychological assessments of officers who have actually been involved in a series of police shootings or officer-involved excessive force cases, and that there hasn't been a mandated set of circumstances related to what type of logical evaluation a police officer actually engages in, and then what actually then qualifies them to not be deemed as appropriate enforcement officers in communities of color. And so I think that all those things center around kind of a criteria overhaul and looking at the policy that exists as it relates to the job of law enforcement across the board.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Good to see you.
That's time. Councilmember Hampton.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnston, for throwing your hat in the ring. Really appreciate you. We'll be deliberating today, and you should know by the end of the night who is picked.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Once again, very grateful for you. Thank you.
Take care.
We will bring in our next.
I think it looks like she's here, but she's on mute. Ms. Bree Jones. And we're a little off time, but I figured that was going to happen.
It threw me off when you switched me to panelists. It just popped off.
Ms. Jones, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much for throwing your hat in the ring and being a part of this process. Really appreciate you. I would like to just give you a little ground rules. You have 9 minutes. You will start off with the introduction, and there will be. With that being said, the floor is yours, Ms. Jones. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hampton. My name is Bree Jones. Strong community ties here. My family is, third, fourth generation here now. Minus a few years in my 20s. I've lived in Pasadena pretty much my whole life, Pasadena and Altadena. Was compelled to apply for this position, this role, as there are lots of things that we get to see in our communities, and with my proximity to the location where Anthony McLean was shot and killed, I was compelled to apply for this position to play a part in closing the communication gap between law enforcement, the city, and the people of this community specifically.
Perfect.
Question number one.
The first question is, how would you help to ensure that African American and Latino youth are safe while in our community?
Thank you, Sophia, for that question. There are a number of factors which contribute to the safety of our youth. It's not just us physically being safe, but our mental health and typical concerns of being safe. My own 8-year-old daughter has concerns with being safe because of what happened here with Anthony. But aside of that, a huge contributing factor is to address those longstanding, address the fact that we have a lack of longstanding relationships with Pasadena police and the community. Was something I witnessed directly. There was an incident over in this area by La Pinaresca. There was one officer who was taking the time to communicate and connect with community members, and he was redirected by a sergeant and sent to sit in his car. That does not feed to the trust of the community and police department or even the city. I think that we need more in the way of connecting. And that will build in time the trust to see that, that in time will build the trust that we need to be able to close those communication gaps and help you feel more comfortable with of law enforcement.
Thank you. Question number 2. Yes,
Hi. And I feel like you touched on it a little bit in your first response. The work of this commission is to support, enhance, develop, and strengthen community police relations. How might culture and communication support your efforts?
Thank you, Emily, for that question. Well, I can see how it did that direction. I think all of my questions and answers kind of probably will go that way. Being that I am a Black woman, and specifically one with family roots and connections here and not necessarily from family, I have a different experience than someone in a different demographic may have. It's not exclusive to me, of course, but other community members may be able to say that they have the same. In my training as a domestic violence advocate and counselor, as well as my own personal commitment to communication, I've constructed the capacity to be able to communicate across race, across gender, across class lines. And I've contributed to the cultural and economic voice that is often unheard and often unaddressed here in Northwest. Again, just looking to play a part in closing those communication gaps between our law enforcement, our city, and our community members.
Thank you so much for being here, Ms. Jones. My name is Charla with the social advocacy group Breathe Justice. The third question is, if you're chosen on the Police Oversight Commission, there may come a time that you and or the commission reach a different conclusion than the city of Pasadena or the Pasadena Police.
For that question, Charlotte, in a role and in a commission such as this, it is the Community Police Oversight Commission. And so in that, my accountability would be to the community members that I represent, diligently communicating amongst our group to figure out, I guess, the best ways to handle that. I guess, situations would vary, so I don't know directly how to answer that. You don't know what may arise, but my community, my accountability would be to my community. So just doing the best to represent those who are demographic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And hi, my name is Heavenly Hughes. I'm with My Tribe Rise. Nice to see you, Spree. Ms. Jones.
I see Brother Anthony behind you.
Oh, for sure. You know. So the question I would like to ask is, what do you feel is the number one goal for the commission?
Because I expect that we all their perspectives, demographic may be different, social, economic, and all those things.
I'm sorry, Ms. Jones, can you start your question over from the top? I don't know if everyone else had the technical difficulties hearing you. I just want to make sure that you get a fair shot at this. So, can you hear us, Ms. Jones? Is everything okay?
I am able to hear you. I am able to hear you. Is it my internet connection?
Yeah, it was a little choppy for a little while. I just wanted to I didn't want you to go all in and then we didn't hear what you said. So go ahead.
I did expect it in a commission with different goals for each of us. What I would hope is that we all would be committed to and finding understanding for each other, as well as the work that our police force and the work that our city officials do.
Perfect. Oh, Ms. We really appreciate you. Yeah, that's 4 questions. You were straight to the point,
Thank
so we
you.
appreciate that, and wish you the best of luck. And we should know who our appointee will be by the end of the night. So stay tuned, and thank you again for throwing your hat in the ring. Really appreciate you.
Thank
We'll
you.
bring in the next. We'll bring in the next candidate, which is
She's here. She's here. for
Patty. Patty Kish.
Hi.
I don't want to mess up your. It's Casparian, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Hello.
Patty, good to see you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Hope you're having a great day. I'm just going to give you some basic ground rules. You will have 9 minutes to answer the questions. There will be 3 questions and a bonus question, which is we call it a wild card question. It's like March Madness around here. And you have 9 minutes. So
Nope. March Madness.
I'll let you start now. The shot clock will start, and you have 9 minutes.
A minute. Well, let's say a minute for the introduction.
Sorry. You have a minute.
Okay.
I'm sorry. You have a minute for introduction.
Got it. Yeah, I read the
I left
email.
that part out. The March Madness thing wasn't part of the script, so I don't know why I added that in. Threw me off.
So my name is Patil Kasparian. I've been a resident of District 1 for almost 5 years. I live here with the holding a public office plays a very important role in city governance, and that's the reason why I'm applying for this commission. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be considered because I see great potential in improving the community relations with law enforcement and increasing the public's understanding of how the police department works, the policies and procedures in place. And of course, with whatever we have in existence, there's always room for improvement, and that's what the commission needs to do.
Perfect.
Thank you. First question. I believe Ms. Smith. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
About that. I have to keep remembering that. Welcome and thank you for being a part of this and applying. We were just wondering, how would you ensure that our African American and Latino youth would be safe in our communities? How could you help with that situation?
Thank you for asking this question and prioritizing it to the panel, because it's the safety of our youth, particularly African Americans and Latino, is non-negotiable. We must have a all hands on deck policy to support and protect our youth. There needs to be safety that doesn't just come from physical safety, but it has to be with health, education, social, vocational, and even including leadership skills. And that responsibility should be shared by all of us, including the police department, the citizens. I'll look to the nonprofits that are in Pasadena. We are very asset rich when it comes to nonprofit sources and information. And in turn, the commission should take that opportunity to create new process, new procedures, to be able to recruit, to be able to educate and train to keep our youth safe. In my opinion, the most important objective of this commission is to maintain the public's trust and confidence in law enforcement. And that isn't limited to adults only. It's very important that the youth believe in leadership in the police department and in law enforcement. And to do that, we have to work together.
Thank you. Question number 2, please.
I can take that as no one else is there. I think it was.
I think I'm here, but I think next we had Bert up for that question. Are you able to ask this question? Number 2?
Yes.
Yeah.
Question number 2. The work of this commission is to support the community police relationships. How might culture and communications support your efforts?
The one common denominator between how we communicate, what we communicate, when we communicate, all can change, and it should change given, society, given the moment, given every process, every situation. And that's similar with culture too. Just recently with the pandemic, we had a shift in culture and how the citizens and the city adapted. We put the public safety, because of that, we acted together. We shifted our education, and we were able to, get out of a hard place into a more advanced. So I think culture and communication should be a common goal for the commission. We should allow it. We should, again, to educate, train. So I look at communication and culture as a good opportunity to shift and improve what we currently have in place.
Thank you. At this time, we'll ask question number 3.
Hello, thank you so much for being here, Patel. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. My name is Heavenly.
Yes.
Hi, how are you? My name is Heavenly with My Tribe Rising. The third question is, let me just pull it back up here. If the facts of the situations lead you to a different conclusion than the official position of the city or even the police, how would you handle it?
This is a learning opportunity for all of us because this is a new commission. This is a new power that has been, established to have the public, as public citizens, speak and react. So our ability to review and recommend change is a very big power, and it's something that we shouldn't take lightly, take it for granted. I'm confident that if the commission makes a decision that is in the betterment of the city of Pasadena and its citizens, we have to believe in it. And if we don't, if we aren't able to act on it immediately, then we should use it as an opportunity to change the current policies and the procedures in place, for the next time. So if we don't get it right now, we have to get it right for the next time. With every opportunity, we could recruit, we could educate, we could train. And just because the one decision was not implemented immediately doesn't mean that it cannot be implemented later.
Thank you. And we have our bonus question, which will be asked by.
Can I ask?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Welcome. This is Alan Edson with the Pasadena NAACP. Thank you for applying. I wanted to ask you a question about your time here in Pasadena. How many people of color are you accountable to?
Define accountable.
Who do you listen to? Who do you represent? Who do you speak for? If you met me on the street, would you go to bat for me?
You personally, after today, yes. But so I work for Caltech, so I'm in a student faculty environment. I've been very active with the Caltech Y, which is the student organization on campus. My husband has a business in Pasadena. I am of Armenian descent, so my relatives are all Armenian. My circle of friends, I have many friends from all walks of life, including African American and Latino friends, who have come to my house. I've gone to their house. We've celebrated and shared many happy occasions too. In terms of being accountable to, I don't think I'm accountable to anyone outside of my immediate family, which is my kids and my husband.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Patty, for answering all the questions, and thank you so much for taking your time and throwing your hat in the ring. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Please stay tuned. We will be making our final selection this evening. Our next, who is our next?
Mike Owen, he's there.
I don't see him. Okay, oh, sorry, I didn't see his square.
Can you hear me, Tyra?
We can hear you. We just can't see you.
You can't see me? Let me see. I I think it's my virus protection is blocking the camera. I'm sorry. I got put on here to start the video. Hang on 1 second. Let's see.
We'll give you a little bit of time.
Right,
We have some. Once again, everybody, if you are watching this, you are watching the application process, interview process for the Community Oversight Commission member who will represent the First District. And with us today, we have your neighbors, business that are represented by business owners, neighborhood organizations, clergy, as well as past and present law enforcement. Oh, sorry, not let's say public safety officers, because we have a police officer, a retired police officer, and our old fire chief, Bert Washington, with us. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating.
Seems like you might have to go with no camera.
That's fine.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Are you good with going without the camera?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not much to look at anyway, so y'all aren't missing anything.
You know, that's why I turn off my camera all the time, brother. Well, with that being said, Mike, you have 9 minutes. The time is really strict, so you will have standard, or as I call it, madness question. At this time, you have the floor. You have your 1 minute opening.
I've lived in Pasadena since 2000, and I've since moving here, married, had lots of kids. I've to Jackson, and you're just, as I've seen, you're just the different rifts between the community and law enforcement, and the fact that that Pasadena is making steps to improve that, which I thank you all for doing that and making the steps towards that. I wanted to be a part of it.
Well, thank you. First question will be asked by Mr.
I have asked the first question. My name's
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Thank you.
My name's Sofia Revere, and I'm part of the Collective of the Roses. And the first question for you is, how would you help to ensure that African American and Latino youth are safe while in our community?
The way that I would see that happening is, I'm a big believer in clarity and transparency in communicating. And as situations happen that do cause these rifts, that that those things are identified, and it would be involved with the commission. It would we would identify them and make sure that we understand the history behind them and what steps are being taken to resolve them, and make sure that there's a clear understanding of that, and then the any follow-up steps that are in place to measure it, make sure that we are successful with those types of situations and problems not happening again in the future. And if they should, we have a clear record of it, and that we can go back and obviously make a better decision.
Question number 2, be asked by
I think Ms. Perry, that's you.
Okay. Hello, I'm Joyce
Hi.
Terry. I work in the community, helping members file complaints against the police department. And the question number 2 is, the work of this commission is to support, which is enhance, develop, and strengthen community police relations. How might culture and communication support your efforts?
I think the having a good understanding of the culture of our community and making sure that we are in contact with our fellow citizens in our neighborhoods, understanding what their opinions of law enforcement are, their perceptions, their feeling of safety, making sure there's a good, clear understanding of that, and then making sure from a commission standpoint that that's clearly communicated to law enforcement, that that they understand what the community voice is and what their their approval rating is in our neighborhood, and what the voice is heard and is clearly communicated.
May I have a follow-up question to ask? There is also a police culture. And how can you be supported?
Ms. Perry, I think that would be not fair to all the rest of the applicants. Will it be your bonus question if we have
Okay.
Gotcha.
So, question number 3, please.
That's Alan Edson. Will you ask that, Alan?
Mr. Edson, you're on mute.
Yeah, got it. Good evening, Mr. Owen. This is Alan Edson with the Pasadena NAACP. If the facts of a situation lead you to a different conclusion than the other, and then the official position of the city, how would you handle it?
I would, if those facts, I guess, are presented clearly, I had a different opinion, I would strive to understand that. And why did I arrive at a different conclusion than the city or law enforcement? Because I feel like when I go back home to my family, to my neighbors, I need to be able to explain that to them. So I would want to understand it clearly and be able to explain it. And then when looking at the facts of it, to make sure that those facts take into account our community's their feelings about it, their perceptions of law enforcement, and their feeling of safety when police are in our neighborhood. Because even though those aren't necessarily, I guess, facts, they are very important. And to make sure that those things have been reviewed and looked at, I guess, when that explanation is given of why that decision was arrived at.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And this is the bonus question. And Ms. Perry, I'm just going to follow back up with you to see if you would like to ask that bonus question. If you still want to follow up.
Yes, thank you. Well, I was confused because the culture, it was from the resident's perspective, but we're also dealing with the police culture and the way police communicate. So my question is, do you think that will be supportive of your efforts, knowing how the culture is?
That's a good question, Ms. Perry. It will. I think it will probably be a challenge, and I don't think that's on the. That's not. I guess that opinion is not representative of all of law enforcement, but the folks who are inclined to give a challenge, that challenge is going to be there, and that is unfortunately part of the culture that's there. Because everybody together makes that up, and it would be a challenge. Again, I think that through tough questions, through clear communication, and making sure that I understand it clearly, so I can explain it. I think that there could be a change in the culture, or at least it could be held more accountable for what it is.
Thank you. I appreciate your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. And thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike, Mr. Owens, for participating. Thank you so much for throwing your hat in the ring. I look forward to it. Will actually tonight we will be picking the commissioner at the end of the meeting. So please stay tuned, and look forward to seeing you at a PCLC meeting.
No. Thank you. Thank y'all very much. My apologies for the video, but again, thank y'all for what y'all are doing, and definitely full support.
Thank you. Take care.
So the next applicant is Ms. Robertson, and there she is.
Mrs. Robertson, are you there with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you, but is that fine with you? You're on mute. Oh. We can see you now, but we can't hear you. You just need to unmute yourself.
This one, hopefully the other one won't go away.
That's the one. That's the right one. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, sir.
Thank you so much for throwing your hat in the ring and participating in this.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So you have 9 minutes. I've told everybody this. You have 9 minutes to answer all your questions. There will be 3 questions and 1 bonus question. And your time starts now. Right now, you have 1 minute to give us an introduction why you've decided to apply. Thank you.
Okay. First, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to participate on this interview panel. It's been very informative and quite nice. My name is Wilhelmina Robertson. I moved to Pasadena in 1954, and I attended Longfellow, John Marshall Middle School, and John Muir High School and PCC. I have a bachelor's in education, I have a master's in administration, and I recently retired from over 25 years with the government. My last position with them was a program analyst, so I love telling and sharing organizational stories. I moved back to Pasadena in 2019. And the reason that I applied for this particular seat is because I believe I have the professional expertise to effectively provide strong recommendations to the community and to the mayor, council members, and then also to the police department staff as a member of the commission. I'm also very good at helping with determining and developing effective goals and objectives. And I've participated in racial and cultural diversity training, and been impacted by violent crime in Pasadena. One of my family members was one of the.
We reached
your minute. You reached the minute for the introduction.
Okay, all right.
Well, with that being said, we'll go straight to the first question. First question should be asked by Mrs. Smith.
Okay. And if not Ms. Smith, Ms. Rivera.
Ms. Rivera, go ahead. Take it. Thank you.
Thank you. So my first question is, how would you help to ensure that African American and Latino youth are safe while in our community?
Great question. And I did a little bit of research before I, to come up with my response to that before this, before answering. And I found out that suicide and homicide are the leading causes of death for youth ages 15 to 34 in our area. And I just kind of went through and I started asking myself questions like, why? In the home, child abuse, possibly. Out of the home, negative influences. And then also there's this deep feeling of disrespect. And so how would I ensure in safety? I think what I would do, because I like to have evidence, I like to dig and to try to find the reasons for why. I like to answer the question why. So to do that, I have to do research, and I'd have to sit there and find out the data. I'd have to talk with individuals, and then I would make recommendations based on those that what I had uncovered in my research. And those recommendations hopefully would challenge racial and cultural stereotypes that end racial profiling, and also a big thing which I believe is disrespect. I had the privilege of talking with an ex-convict. And one of the interesting things that he told me was that in prison, one of the ways that you could get in trouble was disrespect. And I think about those individuals coming in and out of that system and having this strong need to be respected, to have their feelings, their attitudes, their worth respected. So I really probably zone in on that quite a great deal.
Thank you. Question number 2.
Hello, Ms. Robertson. My name is Marjani Forte Saunders. I should say, hey, fellow Eagle, Marsha.
Good to see you.
The neighbors of North Raymond here in La Pintoresca Park. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
My question for you is, the work of this commission, as you may know, is to support, as in enhance, develop, and strengthen community police relations? How might culture and communication support your efforts in this work, Ms. Robertson?
Trying to shake off my nerves, okay? But one of the ways I think that the most important way that culture and communications would affect my efforts is that they both provide insight. They give you insight. The culture gives you insight into what a person believes, their belief structure. Communication gives you a chance to talk with them and to really get an understanding of how they're feeling. The commission wants to strengthen relationships. And in any relationship, communication is probably the one huge factor that breaks down any relationship, whether it be a marriage relationship, friends, whatever. So if there are problems in those relationships, generally it is because of communication. Also, I wanted to just say too that being an African American, I've lived in or around Pasadena for quite some time. I have a perspective, a unique perspective, which is my own as an African American. And over the years, I've noted that certain streets, certain neighborhoods have been the victims of crime and violence forever, ever since I was little, okay? And you wonder, and you have to get to the root of why that happens. And that's why it's so important not to just collect data, but to collect the right data, to get in there and dig hard enough so that you're able to understand, to know what you're looking for ahead of time, and then understand what those results are telling you, and then be able to speak those results in a way that people can understand.
Question number 3, please.
Yes, Ms. Robertson, Pastor Corwin Manning, President of the Clergy Community Coalition. So good to have you with us this evening. If you are selected to be a part of this commission, and if the facts of a particular situation lead you
and I stay tuned to next applicant, who is Mr. We can
let's see. Okay, all right.
Your production submissions.
Schools and school and so on the future.
Thank look, African community.
Very, very. I'm a youth at heart of by one answer.
This is right. In your effort.
The communities, a whole aura of trust. I think the community would bond with the police. We have a problem now, whereas you live in a community and you don't know who is actually policing the community. You don't know who these people are, and they come into the community and they have an air of superiority rather than an air of, I want to work with you. I want to help make this thing better. I think that people in the neighborhood should know the police personally. The police should know the people personally to a certain point. And that's the only way we can get some type of a cohesive interaction between the police and the neighborhoods. But I think it's got to start with the police, because the people in the neighborhood want the police. They want to be able to trust the police. There's a misconception about black people and brown people. All we want is to be this, and all we want is that. No, we don't want crime in our neighborhoods. We don't want drugs in our neighborhoods. We want them to be free of that. But it seems like we are confronted by police who think that they're here to get rid of everything, whether you want it or not. And we want to have good neighborhoods, and we have to be able to trust that the police want that too.
Okay, thank you.
Question number 3.
Question number 3. Hi, my name is Heavenly Hughes. Thank you so much, Mr. Nolan, for being here today. So the question is, if the facts of a situation leads you to a different conclusion than the official position of the city or the police, how would you handle it?
The only thing that I have, I'm not very articulate. The only thing that I have is wisdom. And the first thing about wisdom is that wisdom has to be based upon a higher source than itself. So in order to be wise, you have to be based upon something that is great, something that is big. The whatever conclusion I would come to would have to be based upon the truth. It would have to be based upon something that is good for the community. And it doesn't make any difference to me what I'm reading, what I'm hearing. That doesn't make any difference at all. For coming from a standpoint of wisdom, the only thing that matters is the truth. And that's what I would act upon, period, 100% of the time. And to me, that's the most important thing.
Now for your bonus question, question number 4 will be asked by Charlotte.
No problem. Hi, Mr. Shahid. I'm Charlotte with Brief Justice 365. One question for you. Police officers risk their lives on the job daily. Do you believe this risk warrants a certain level of implicit community trust in their actions? Why or why not?
I believe that trust is, I think most of the police are run by men, or at least started to run by men. Men have a lot of testosterone. And testosterone allows you to do things that you probably shouldn't do sometimes. Trust is very, very important to establish a relationship with the community. I know police people risk their lives, but sometimes you have to acquiesce. Sometimes you have to go into a situation before anything bad happens and say, hey, my name is Sergeant so-and-so. I'm not familiar too much with working with African Americans or Latinos. I'm not familiar with this neighborhood, but I really want to make a difference. I really want this thing to work, and I really want to be part of this thing working correctly. I'll be out here with my life in jeopardy to help protect you if you help me. And if a person would do that, if he would just acquiesce just a little bit, the community would be behind him. And the community would say, wow, that's my guy. I don't care if he's white or what. The community would say, look, if something happens, I'm calling Sergeant so-and-so. Because it's very important that the trust with the community and the trust with the police are coordinated in one. But it's got to start with the police. The police have got to be able to acquiesce to a certain point and say, I will work for you. After that is established, the police can do however they want to do it. But that trust has been established, and the people will be able to say, I know that this guy really cares and he's doing the best. So let him do his job. And after that, there's no problem at all with the community.
Thank you.
Mr. Shahid, that concludes your interview. Thank you so much for applying and putting your hat in the ring. We really appreciate you. I want you to have a fantastic day. Stay tuned, though, because we will be deliberating here shortly, and we will be picking our next commissioner.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we were waiting for our room to be the panel. Perfect. Here we go. Well, has everybody have a 1, 2, or 3? I just want to know if you need some time to write down some notes.
Yeah,
you already have your. If you could just raise your.
Just to do a little scoring. Or you guys can talk. That's what I'll be doing. I won't say anything.
I want to just have like 5 minutes.
Actually, yes. Actually, let's give everybody 5 minutes. You could leave your camera on or turn it off and do your deliberation and scoring, and then
we'll be back at about 6:37.
6:37. Smoke birthday. Put it on my tripod. That was very interesting. You enjoyed it?
It's pretty interesting.
But I will say this.
Heavenly, you might want to go on mute because we can hear your deliberations at home with Victor. Hi, Victor. Everybody might want to just go on mute.
Mute. Oh, I thought we were all discussing.
We're taking 5 minutes before discussing.
Hello, everybody. We're coming back.
Okay.
First and foremost, I want to thank all. Is everybody back now? Looks like I'm seeing everybody.
Yes.
Mrs. Bell, you will. Mrs. Bell and Priscilla, you guys will take the tallies as we're going around. Okay, perfect. Charlotte, go ahead.
I just confirm again, this is live and viewed by the public still, correct?
Absolutely. This is very much public record, and it's being recorded as well.
Wanted to clarify for everyone.
The only part wasn't transparent was me going and getting the taco and drinking the water. But I just wanted to throw that out as a disclaimer to everybody who wanted to know what I do on Tuesdays. It's Taco Tuesday here at my house.
Just don't eat it in front of us.
I won't. Well, thank you, everybody. First of all, I want to thank all of the applicants for putting their hats in the ring. The amount of time that you put into your applications is commended. I just wanted to let you know, as one city council member, but not just as a city council member, but someone who lives in this community, for you to put yourself out there like that is admirable, and I just wanted to say thank you. We had some fantastic, just based on all the interviews tonight, there were some really, really fantastic dynamic individuals that were able to put it all out there, and I really appreciate that. So thank you. Once again, to all the panelists, thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for making this a very inclusive group of neighbors, business owners. Actually, the crazy thing is everybody here is a first district resident or works in the first district in some way. So you're all neighbors. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And with that being said, we are going to go straight to your number one and number two. Because in our introduction, first 5 minutes, we didn't really have a big time to do this. But before you give your number one and two, it would be great if you could identify yourself, what organization you're with, what neighborhood association you're with, or if you own a business. That would be great information, or if you were a past public employee or in public safety. So let's start with Mr. Edson, President Edson.
Oh, thank you. And so, you want two names from me? Is that how it's going to work?
That's how it's going to work.
Okay. Well, I'm Alan Edson.
I'm sorry, you can give three names. I would prefer everybody to give three names. That way we can do the scores. But
I thought you were doing two, but if you're changing it to three, okay. But in the email today, everyone was thinking that they'll do two, but I'm sure everyone is flexible. So
okay, well then two names. If that's the email, we won't change it today. You said, I think three is better because we can score it easier. That way we can see how many people get the scores.
Okay.
And so okay, we'll do three. So everybody's fine with three. Hopefully you were able to get your top three.
Okay.
And these aren't in order, so it doesn't make not in, because once we get our top, then we'll go over those names again.
Okay, very good. So I'm Alan Edson, and I'm the president of the passenger branch of the NAACP. This has been a very informative experience. I'm only going to pick two names because that's only, I just didn't think through three. And those would be Derek Johnston and Esprit Jones.
Thank you.
Can we give a reason why?
No, we could deliberate that publicly right after everybody. Latanya Smith, Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Hello, I am Latanya Smith, and I have been a resident of Pasadena for about 30 years. Graduated from Cal State Northridge. Have
Your signal is fading.
Breaking up.
Ms. Smith, your signal is fading.
Maybe we can come back to her.
We can.
I definitely have a Black child who. Am I breaking up?
Yes, Ms. Smith, your signal is totally faded. Do you want? We could come back to you. I'll go to Charlotte. I'm only looking at. Is it okay if we come back to you because you're?
Yeah, the internet is acting crazy.
Okay, we'll come back to you.
Names, or maybe she might want to just do names while we can hear her.
I couldn't hear that. Would you like?
You have to turn your video off, and then you have a better signal.
Yeah, you want to try turning your video off? Okay, we'll just go to the next. Miss Charlotte. Breed Justice.
Yes. Hi, I'm Charla with the social advocacy group Breed Justice, who aspires to build relationships and encourage alternative tactics to humanize the enforcement of justice. Our website is breedjustice365.org. We are local, based in District 1, Pasadena, California. And on that note, I kind of like Mr. Edson have a strong top two of Derek Johnson and Mr. Derek Johnson and Miss Esprit Jones. I am trying to tabulate my third one, which just going off of an objective score of numbering that I did, looks like it will be Mr. Shahid, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one will be Mrs. Saunders, Rajani Saunders, Forte Saunders.
Sorry, the 5-year-old came.
Hey, we all live in it. You know, it's Zoom. My daughter was all in the background.
Okay, hey y'all. I'm Marjani Saunders.
Okay.
A member of the Neighbors of North Raymond, which is a new association recently formed and connected here right across the street from La Pintoresca Park. I'm an artist. My husband is an artist, and I'm born and raised here in Pasadena, California. I'm a Marshall Eagle. And my first two were Esprit Jones and also Wilhelmina Robertson. And then my third would also be Derek Johnson. Thanks.
Thank you. The next person would be Mrs. Joyce Perry.
Hello, everyone. I've lived in Pasadena for 20-something years. I'm not a native. And I started working to help residents with complaints against the police department in 2017. So that's my passion. And my choices, my first choice is Spirit Jones. Second choice is Jason Betts. And third choice is Nolan Shahid.
Thank you, Ms. Perry.
You're welcome.
Next up is My Tribe Rise, Heavenly, and Victor.
Yes, you all know that he's right there. Thank you so much for having us be a part of this today. It was very interesting to hear the different applicants. And again, my name is Heavenly Hughes. I'm with My Tribe Rise. We focus on police reform and transformation. We also focus on food insecurities, economic justice, and we work on ways to bring tribe members together to put it into gang violence and things of that sort. So I will say that, when I did my tallying up, a couple of people became, the tallies made them maybe high on my list, but there were some things that I felt as I'm watching that was a little, made me feel that they're disconnected somewhat from the community. And for me, that's the most important thing, especially our underserved community, especially our Black and brown community. So when we're tallying and the responses are, but something there feels like there may be a little disconnect with the community, I adjusted accordingly. So my two strong applicants were Derek Johnston and Esprit Jones.
Thank you. Miss Emily Hopkins.
Hi, I'm Emily Hopkins. I'm the Executive Director of Side Street Projects. Many of you maybe know us as the Woodworking Bus. Now I actually have the background that is branded. But we're a community-based, artist-run organization that works on a lot of social justice issues in a range of ways. I've lived in Pasadena Northwest for 11 years. I grew up in Baltimore, and so I'm no stranger to how I'm treated very differently by the police than my neighbors, and I consider that a real problem. I'm on the advisory board of John Muir High School, and I run the West Montana Neighborhood Association. And my top two are Esprit Jones and Derek Johnson, and my runner-up is Wilhelmina.
Thank you. Next up,
I'm super honored to be part of this powerful think tank.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for participating. Our next up is Pastor Corwin Manning. I know you as pastor, so I know this is Corwin Manning on the screen.
I can answer to that and a lot more. Corwin Manning, I serve as a pastor this Sunday will be 20 years pastoring Pasadena Church, the Church with No Limits. I also serve as the president of the Clergy Community Coalition. And I'm just honored to be on this interview panel with you guys. My top three choices, because of some of the reasons already listed, but I was listening to the heart of behind the answers and trying to connect that with real life situations, because this is a very serious, and it will be a very, hopefully not as common as we want it to be, but we know we're headed in this direction as a city as well. So my first two choices are Esprit Jones and Derek Johnson, and my third choice would be Nolan Shahid.
Thank you. Next up will be Sofia Revere.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Sofia Revere. I'm a third generation Pasadenean. My family came here in the 40s. I am a Northwest Pasadena resident, born and raised. I'm also a Marshall Eagle, so excited to see that. I'm also a part of a collective called Collective of the Roses, or in Spanish, Colectivo de las Rosas. And we're a community group of folks who are born and raised or who work here, who have deep roots here. And our struggles are really about fighting gentrification, organizing around Black and brown solidarity, particularly in Northwest Pasadena. We're also concerned with like the recent school closures in Pasadena, but just public education in general, a variety of things that we've been meeting together with over the last 2 years. And my top two, and this was very difficult because my top two are like both number one, and I wish we could do two people. It's going to be Esprit and also Derek Johnson.
So much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
I just want to add really quick that Eagles rule, because I also graduated from Marshall in 1993 myself.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. Thank you, Eagles. Soar, Eagles, soar. I appreciate that. At this time, we have Muhammad. And could you please pronounce your last name for me?
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's Taj Sar.
Taj Sar. Did I pronounce it right?
Close enough.
See Taj.
Yeah, Taj Sar. Yeah, think of the Taj Mahal.
Taj Sar.
Yeah.
Oh, Taj Sar. Okay.
There you go.
Hopefully I got it right that time.
There you go.
Hi, Mohammed.
Hi.
Please, if you could introduce yourself, who you're representing, and your top two. Your top three.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. My name is Mohammed Taj Sar. I'm a first district resident, Charlotte's neighbor. I work at I'm an attorney. I work at the ACLU of Southern California. I do some work on various other things. Thank you all for the invitation. I'm sorry, I kind of was creeping a little bit in the background. I kind of negligently didn't get Ms. Bell's emails quick enough to get on top of it. But my three choices in order would be Ms. Robertson first, and then Ms. Jones, and then Mr. Johnston last.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next would be Mr. Rodney D Wallace.
Good afternoon, or good evening, I guess it is now. And I'm Rodney D Wallace. I'm 34 years with Pasadena Police Department, actually 33 with Pasadena, one with another agency. I've always, I shouldn't say always, have lived here in District 1. It's been here. I've been here for quite a while. While I was working, I lived here. So it was, I've got a vested interest. After retiring in 2013, I'm president of National Organization of Black Law Imagining Public Safety. We've been working on that for quite some time. Based on a lot of stuff happened last year, all of a sudden people wanted to listen to us. I'm also the president of the men of First AME Church at Raymond and Penn, and I'm still active in and around the community, always have been. And my top three are one, Wilhelmina Robertson, number two is Free Jones, and number three would be Derek Johnston.
Thank you so much.
Certainly.
Mr. Wallace. Mr. Smith, are you okay now?
Okay, thank you for waiting for me. And yes, I got it together. My son went on his video games and knocked me off the network. No, so that's why that happened. So I am the owner of My Place Cafe here in Pasadena, in Henstead Square. So if any of you have not been there yet, which I haven't seen many familiar faces, so that means you need to come and visit me. Tyrone and Kushan are always very kind and come to the cafe. It is the former Sidewalk Cafe, so you may have been there previously before I was the owner. I have a really big vested interest in this topic because I have an African-American son who is in his early 20s. So it is very relevant to my personal life. I chose Esprit as number one, Derek, and Wilhelmina were my three.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for letting me be on this panel.
Oh, absolutely. And we have Bert Washington, our previous fire chief here in the city of Pasadena, representing
Good evening. Yes, Bertram Washington, or just Bert. Is first of all, Councilmember Hampton, I just want to say thank you and congratulations for putting together a very outstanding program here. I think the way that you and your office is doing this is exceptional, and just kudos to you on another great job and all that you do. And I'm not just
we'll
saying
keep
that
on
because I'm your
inviting you
neighbor.
back, brother, if you're gonna talk like that, man.
Well, it's certainly the truth. It is nothing but the truth, and I'm sure there's a lot of agreement. And what a pleasure to sit on a panel with all of you. There's many of you that I know well, and others of you that I'm looking forward to getting to know well. So, as Councilmember mentioned, I was the fire chief for the city of Pasadena from the end of 2014 to the beginning of 2021. I'm now with the San Bernardino County Fire Protection District, but I'm here representing the Sigma Pi Phi, which we have a special mentoring group called LAMP, which is Leadership, Achievement, Management, and Professionalism, where we take about 20 to 30 young African-American men every year, and we take them through a series of trainings and how to develop them from about 9th grade until the 12th grade. And so it's been very successful. I still live in the 1st District and plan on being in Pasadena for as long as I can foresee into the future. So it's certainly a benefit to me to be a part of this. I really appreciate it. So my top 3, and it was a really close top 3, to be honest with you. I think either 3 of these would do an excellent job, but it would be Miss Robertson, Mr. Derek Johnson, or Miss Esprit Jones. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
One other thing that I'd mention real quick, as my battery's getting low and things like that. I'm doing a little family staycation, so but luckily they let me step aside so I can do this. So I'm gonna charge up, but my picture might go off or come up.
Okay, no worries. Thank you so much, Chief.
Right.
Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We have Myra Nolan with us as well. Myra, are you still there?
I'm here.
Perfect.
I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry about that, and I want to apologize for some of the mix-up for today's meeting, but I was on and got to listen to everyone and did do some scoring. And so I'm sorry, Myra Masella Nolan, most recently pastor for 20 years at Lake Avenue Church. I'm currently the executive director of the Clergy Community Coalition. And we've been in Pasadena for about 20 years. I'm not an Eagle, but one of my daughters graduated from Marshall. So go Eagles.
Counts.
It counts. All of our kids went through PSD. Wow. So there's some amazing candidates. And of course, it was very clear that everybody did preparation and everybody was committed. So like everybody scored really high in a couple of areas, like pretty consistently. But I think that Esprit made it to the top of my list. And I know that we said we were going to talk about why afterwards, but I'm just going to say why, because a couple of other people did. And I think that it's really important that the community is able to see people that they know, particularly the younger generations. They need to trust this commission. This is like kind of the midnight hour for cities all over the US. And it's really important that community members, especially younger generations, see somebody that they can trust on this commission. And I think that definitely Esprit will add that. And then the next person was Derek Johnson, extremely qualified and knowledgeable. And then also Wilhelmina Robertson.
Thank you so much, Myra. Really appreciate you being here. Do we have a tally? I think Ms. Bell may have dropped off. Priscilla, do you have a tally?
Yes. So we have Derek, 12, Johnson, Jones, Esprit Jones, 13, which is our first top 2, and then the next one is Wilhelmina. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. 7. Confirm.
That confirms. And is everybody else taking a tally? Anybody else take a tally? I was just wondering. We had 2 tally takers, but Ms. Bill, for some, it looks like she may have dropped off.
I think that's pretty accurate, though, because there's a difference.
I'm definitely sure that was accurate. Ms. Bell, were you able to take a tally as well? Oh, I think she's still down. Okay.
So I'm back. Priscilla is tallying too, and I completely missed what Myra said. And then I don't know if I'm not sure.
Her vote was Esprit Jones.
Esprit 13, Derek 12, and then Wilhelmina 7. And then we have other ones after that, but those were the top.
Okay. Sounds good.
So amongst the group, would you like to discuss who the top pick should be and who our alternate should be? Charlotte?
Thank you. I wanted to make a point regarding selection and then ask a question of you, Tyrone, as well. One thing is that I personally have participated in, watched, viewed the vast majority of council meetings panelists have as well. And one thing that I've noticed is that there are several council members who are adamant about obstructing the process of this commission. There are several council members, or let's say members of city council. I'm not sure if that includes those at the top of the top, but there are several people who seem just that it is a top priority of those to weaken this group. And so we've seen it go from something that could have potentially been very, very strong to something that's, you know, a significant compromise, I'll say. So for me, in terms of making my selection, and that this is not based on any personal experience with this person, I really valued the manner in which Mr. Johnston has the background, he has the degrees, he has the experience, whether work experience, and he talked about paradigm shifts. He's just incredibly knowledgeable, and he undoubtedly would be able to speak truth to power, which is a strong component of what I'm looking for. I think that's something that we all should consider as we make these deliberations, because District 1 is, by documentation of a 2016 report, likely the most impacted by policing. Our representative has to be incredibly strong, has to be powerful, has to know their thing, has to know their stuff. And although this is the first round and the first time through, just love to see our District 1 representative be the level at which others are measured. I think that we have the most to lose as well as the most to gain. And that's why I put Mr. Johnston as number one. I also really have had very good interactions with Ms. Jones, and she's been incredibly, incredibly helpful locally. I just would like to see somebody who has that background already and wouldn't have to do a lot of on-the-job training. Now, that's not saying anything offensive to any of the other candidates. And I also, my second point was to ask this question, Tyrone, which is, where do we stand on those community appointments? Because I want to kind of wrap my mind around this idea that I believe there are supposed to be 3 from the community. These runners-up could potentially be those, or how would that work?
So the community appointments will be placed on an agenda by the Public Safety Committee, and the Public Safety Committee will present a slate of names to the City Council. The deadline to apply for a community position ended the 15th. So if any of these individuals who applied in both positions, they'd have an opportunity to also go back and say, yes, we want to also interview for the community seat. If they did not, then this is their shot.
Right. After going through the applications, I didn't see anyone who had selected both. It didn't appear that that was an option, though.
You had to apply. I believe you had two different applications.
Okay.
So two different applications.
Thank you very much.
So your number one pick is, I just want to make sure that since we're tallying names, it sounds like Derek was your number one?
Based on what I saw today, yes.
Okay. So we're going to do a retally and we're going to make a pick today.
So
Ms. Saunders.
before, can I just ask you a question? How is the read, or what's happening now? Are like people saying they're number one?
They're going to say they're number one.
Okay, so we're going around and everybody's saying they're number one.
They're saying they're number one and they're number two, and we're going to retally and we're going to figure
But
out.
are they, I'm just.
We have three names to pick from. So sorry, just if that was confusing at all, the three that we have to pick from right now is Derek Johnston, Wilhelmina Robertson, and Esprit Jones. Is that right? Fine?
Yeah.
Those were the
So
top
we're picking number one and number two.
Yes,
Is that what you're saying, or only number one?
You're picking your number one and your number two right now from that list of names.
Yes.
And of course,
all right.
Just like Charlotte had the opportunity to make her argument for everybody else, you could do the same for whoever your pick is, and we're just going to proceed from there.
And I have one more question.
Go ahead, Ms. Bill.
Sorry. So Charlotte picked Derek, like that was her number one. Did she pick a number two as well?
Number two.
Sound like three.
Very strong second was Miss Esprit Jones.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will follow her because I'm
sorry. Ms. Smith, 1 second. Marjani had her hand up before you started.
I'm sorry
to recognize her. You'll be right after her.
That's all right, Miss Smith. I'm still coming to get my Ethiopian blend, okay?
Yay!
For the sake of telling, can you use the last name when you identify the first? Okay.
Will do. I'm going to rock the boat a little bit, Councilmember Hampton, and that is for the reason that you mentioned, Charlotte, exactly, which is that District 1 finds itself at the center, actually, of this conversation around police violence and police brutality in Pasadena. And so if we're looking at notions of fairness or equity, how do we center what some might call a kind of ground zero of La Pintoresca Park? Narrowing our choices down in this Police Oversight Commission to one person to represent a community that is clearly at the center of this conversation is a bit problematic. And so I just want to put that forward, that I agree with you, Charla, that Derek is perhaps most informed in the workings of this kind of system or governing structure, but is the person who has been prior to the situation with Anthony McLean, and throughout that situation, most active and most accountable, again, to this local community. And so I think the two of them, number one, serving on this kind of commission would not only be radical in the work that is needed to happen here at Pasadena, but also transformative, actually truly transform the work of the commission. So I just want to make sure that. And if I did need to single it down to one person, which I know I am going to put Esprit forward because this is the community police. Community, not looking for who articulates themselves better or who has the degrees or letters or anything behind their name, but who is answering to the voices of this community. And lastly, the community of La Pintoresca Park is not just the residents who live here, but it's the people also who can no longer afford to live here, but continue to come here and be here. And it's that part of the conversation that remains untended to in how we talk about governing district. Those are my thoughts.
All right. And this is Latanya Smith again. And I have the same feeling that I picked Derek Johnston first because of exactly what Charlotte, when she was speaking, that resonated with me. And I also picked Esprit. But I had a conflict also, like how dynamic it would be for both of them, because I want for this committee to be taken seriously. Which that is my fear, that it is another thing that will just start out really strong. And as soon as we're not paying attention, then it will get lost, because that is the history of how things work in Pasadena. So I want for Esprit to be taken seriously. That is my only fear. Like, I don't know if they will accept Derek, you know, and his strengths a little better. You know what I'm saying? But she is amazingly awesome and is the voice of the community, because you can't have one without the other. So I guess my conflict is, can it be two, Tyrone? Maybe did we lose him?
No, you didn't lose me. Say that one more time.
I said, can it be two? I mean, in terms of, because both bring such a
I'm
strong.
sorry. No, we have pick here.
Okay.
So you know, I know how hard it is. I mean, this is a really hard decision. So,
Right,
you know,
because Marjani makes such a strong point that if it is a community person who she has already done the legwork for that, you know, it really, I don't know. But I want for the city of Pasadena to take her seriously and not to just overlook her because they think that she may be too young or not polished enough, or, you know what I'm saying?
I understand exactly what you're saying, but you know, I'm not here to guide you to that position.
No, I know.
Who you want to, who your ultimate decision is. It's really up to you at this point of what your ultimate decision is going to be. So if you want to, you know, roll it over a little while longer.
A little minute before, yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Let people talk.
Okay, perfect. Miss Nolan's hand up.
I'm sorry. For some reason, I can't raise my hand on the on Zoom, so I had to put my.
No, that works even better. I also see that Miss Perry will be followed by you, and then Chief Washington might head too.
Yeah, I want to thank Charla, you know, for the points you've made, and I just so agree with you. And I think this is a really tough decision, and it's really complicated. I think particularly in this district. And I wanted to say, Ms. Smith, that I think that for that reason, you know, for the reason that people would not take Ms. Jones seriously, that's an issue. That's an issue that we have in our community to address. That makes me, you know, double down on my vote for her. The other thing I want to add is that, and this is not just Pasadena, but this is what I've seen everywhere in the different places that I get to speak into. These conversations about race and these conversations about policing and conversations about racial justice and racial reconciliation have fallen short for the last 5 decades. We have not been able to get there. We have not been able to get there. And I'll tell you, the majority of the people who are participating in these conversations or who are leading the conversations are Black men and white men. And I think that it's really due time for women of color to be taken seriously, whether or not we can speak in a way that other people can speak, whether or not we have the resumes, we know some things. I think the way that we do accountability, the way we care for community is really, really important, has not been given enough weight. And so I think that is, I wanted to just put that out there because I think it's just not said enough about women of color.
So your pick is Esprit. I just want to make sure that was clear.
Yes, I mean, yeah.
Just for tallying purposes, thank you. We have Rodney D's got his hand up, and then Miss Perry. There's a lot of hands up. Can people take their hands down when they're done speaking, please?
Okay. Is it me or Miss Perry? I'm sorry.
No, you'll go now, and then Miss Perry, if that's okay with you, Miss Perry.
Fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I had my top 3 were Wilhelmina, Esprit, and Derek. And my reason for it being Wilhelmina on the top is because having in the city, worked in the city for as long as I have, a lot of the things that happen, the city always is like, folks from Missouri, you got to show me. And she was the type of person that could get the facts and seemed to be willing to do research. And I felt pretty comfortable that she would be the type of person that would be really fight for the facts that she laid out. Esprit, I think everybody has already hit the nail on the head with her. She's grassroots. She's the community. She had been here for a while. To truly have a problem with someone going through the JOB, learning on the job type of thing. Because the whole thing that we need in that environment is someone who knows the issues that are going on, who, not that I heard it through a grapevine. And we have to remember that right now we're talking about the area of La Pintoresca, but we're talking specifically about the entire city of Pasadena, because Black folks don't only live around La Pintoresca, and so we have to try to do some things that are going to bring it all together. And I had Derek third because yes, he talks good. He has that knowledge and things of that sort. But he's already doing a lot of different things with LA. And I don't know if he would be able to, and this is not a knock on him or anything of that sort. I just had my own personal concerns about whether or not he's going to be able to spend the time focusing on Pasadena that we are going to need, especially when this is something that's new. So I still like Wilhelmina mainly because I know the city council, or I should say I have dealt with the city council on a lot of different things. And you could tell them, you can be emotional, you could be really straight, but if you don't have a lot of facts, a lot of times they will not take you serious, like some people were saying about them not taking Esprit serious. I don't think that it has anything to do with her being young. I think it just has to do with this is something they don't want to really deal with anyway. It's more or less something that they're being forced into doing. Like I said, we've been looking at and trying to put together something and trying to open up communications related to reimagining public safety for a long time. It took all of the crap that happened last year before people would even want to listen to the conversations. So my top three or my top two are and it's really close, Wilhelmina and then Esprit, but it could be just as quickly Esprit and then Wilhelmina. And so if you want me to give you a hard and fast, I'm looking at Wilhelmina and then Esprit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And we have Ms. Perry.
Yeah, so well, I'm very anti-establishment. And I don't think the people in the community will relate well to the established people with all these credentials and with all the work that they have done, in the legal field, in politics, etc. And that's why I am strongly for Esprit Jones, because she can relate to the community. She knows them, and I'm sure they know her and can relate to her. This is a new commission. Everyone will be learning on the job. So I think she should have the opportunity to represent the community because she is the community. She is the type of person that should be on the commission because she is us. She is not well established. She doesn't have all the titles next to her name. And that's why they look down on us in the beginning. Because they see us as less than they are. And so we need that representation on the commission. And I did read somewhere that we were supposed to give women preference if possible, just to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry.
You're welcome.
Sonia had her hand up and then Pastor Mann.
Thank you, Sophia.
I'm sorry, Sophia. I apologize.
No worries, no worries. That's my sister's name too. So I want to center this from, and I appreciate everyone's feedback. I appreciate all the people that, were brave enough to submit an application and did that work and put themselves out there. But what I'm finding my concern is that, and this is across the board of all the applicants, like my initial concern was, one, we can't have anybody with a connection to law enforcement. Like, to me, it's like this community oversight is for the community. We're not here to placate or play nice or worry about cops' feelings or law enforcement. Like, this is to protect us and to hear our voice. And I think that was something that I was looking at throughout all the participants. The narrative is police are the ones that have the power, the community does not. And so if we're not centering that, we're not doing due diligence, and we're not doing justice for the people that wanted this oversight committee. Like, this is not what we wanted. And so when I have to come down to choosing between Derek and Esprit, for me, it's gonna be Esprit, because she said, I'm going to be accountable to the community. And that to me is first and foremost, because that to me signifies that she's going to talk to the community, and we're gonna say, hey, this is what we want. We're not here to placate cops' feelings. We're not here to do that work. We're here to hold people accountable, and she's ready to do that. Regardless of whether or not, and this conversation that we're even having about being articulate, having an education and whatnot, like that to me is just so reductive, right? Like, you don't have to have a higher education, a bachelor's degree or what have you. You don't have to be articulate in order to speak from your heart and speak what the community is saying. And she's born and raised here. She's from here. She's from Northwest Pasadena. And even though she may live next to La Pintoresca, she's representative. I see her as a representative of myself, and I don't live next to La Pintoresca. And so for me, it's going to be Esprit, because in my opinion, she is the one person that actually said, I will be accountable to the community. And that's what the Community Police Oversight Committee is for. It's not to be, to somehow I'm not saying not work with the police or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. In my opinion, I don't think we should. And I'm speaking for myself, that I'm someone who wants to abolish the police. I'm not someone who's here for reform. And so I want someone that's representative of someone that is going to hold the police and law enforcement accountable and speak truth to power. And Esprit, to me, is the one that's going to do that. And she's going to be the one to listen to the community and what we want. And many of us want very different things. But I feel like she's the person that's going to be out there in the community talking to us and listening to us. Because this is the thing. The Oversight Committee is not an end all to everything. It's a first step. This isn't going to be the end be all. It's just not. Because if we just solely rely on this committee to be the voice of the people, we've already lost. That's not going to do anything. It's going to take people power. It's going to take the community coming together and organizing and being the support of Esprit and the people on the committee. It's not just, oh, they're going to do the job and, we'll kick back and let them do the work. That's not what it's about. She's representing us, and we're going to have to do the work too. So Esprit is my first pick. I appreciate Derek and what he contributed. I was really inspired by what he said. But as soon as Esprit said, I will be accountable to the community, that's it. No other discussion. And we need to recognize that whoever is on the committee, not just from our district, we have to really, really carefully consider people that have close ties to law enforcement, right? This is a community oversight for the police department. Right. That's not independent if we're utilizing people who are part of the police or have connection. So I just want to put that out there, that has to be front and center. So thank you to everyone. Thank you for hearing me out, but Esprit is my number one pick.
Perfect. Thank you so much. President Edson. I know that I saw you in the chat saying you couldn't figure out how to raise your hand. I got the
I don't know
chat.
how to raise my hand.
Okay.
But, you know, the branch was involved in the creation of this oversight committee. And, you know, it wasn't suits that were in line with us. And I was impressed with Derek Johnson. But Derek Johnson comes from a political background. And at this moment in time, we don't need politicians speaking for the community. You know, this is my first opportunity to, you know, hear Esprit. So I can't speak for her. But, you know, in this particular situation, you know, I think the community, you know, she is a person that legitimizes this whole oversight committee. You know, I don't know what the other picks are going to look like, but I could say, you know, she makes this thing really a community body. And again, you know, I can't speak for her, but I would think, you know, she'd be somebody that would actually throw a rock. And so I got to support that. You know, we, you know, go for polish often, and we, you know, leave passion at the table. And I think, you know, she really is passionate about being a participant in the Community Oversight Commission. And as many of you have alluded to, you know, this thing has been in the works for many, many, many years. And, you know, my view is that, you know, we need to do it differently. And she represents that differently. And so, again, you know, my vote is for Esprit.
Thank you, Mr. Edson. Pastor Manning?
Yes, I'm in agreement. First of all, Sophia, thank you for your comments. I mean, your voice is so refreshing, your perspective, and it gives me hope as one working and serving in this community. I've been around for only 20 years, some of the OGs on the line, but the 20 years I've been around, I've been involved in just about every officer involved shooting, and I've done the eulogies for just about, for several of those people, including Anthony McLean. With Esprit, who was my number one choice, I don't think she would have chosen this commission or this work, but I think that in my mind, it's choosing her. As you all know, I did Anthony McLean, and then me and Pastor Meyer and other pastors in our city embedded ourselves at La Pintoresca Park, making a commitment to being their ministry of presence to the community. And one of the first faces that came out was Esprit, and from day one, she was there, boots on the ground, helping to serve, helping to facilitate. And also, I just want to add one other perspective. The reason she's my number one choice is, contrary to some of the commentary, she was very vigilant in documenting all of the interaction with the police. I could go by any day, any time of the day, and Esprit would have the police car number, how many times they came up and down the street, what that interaction was like. Whenever there was something that wasn't right, she had the notes on that. So she has been very involved and engaged from the beginning, to the point of wanting to be a part of whatever to make our community better. And for that reason, she's my number one choice. And I think that also knowing the heart of our council member, that she would represent him and this district very well. She is very articulate. She's very understanding of the dynamics between community and police. She's been in training since August 15th, doing this work. And I believe it's really time for us to have a fresh face, a fresh voice, and someone who we can say is a part of being a part of this oversight.
Thank you, Pastor Manning. You know, it kind of sounds like, you know, we're going around the horn and there's a theme here. So as we do in a council meeting, I'd like to just ask you to vote by raising your hand. And we're just gonna, unless someone has an objection and would like to put Charlotte has an objection.
Wanted to ask a question and make a comment. My question was, I think everyone, the whole point of this is so that we can share ideas and bounce them off.
Absolutely.
So I'm very thankful for everyone's feedback. And I've learned a lot by listening. And that's, I think, key. I will listen to what people are saying and their personal experiences. My question was, Ms. Rivera, you mentioned a couple of times there was a candidate that had police connection, or there were several. I just wanted to see if there was a particular person you were referring to that it went over my head and I missed it, and then I'll come back after that.
Yeah, just to answer that question, no one in the actual interview said anything. This is based on the applications that we were able to view. Yes, and that was a question that I was wondering if that was ever going to be asked. Because that was asked in a different district's interview. Not to say that this one wasn't what it needed to be. I just was curious as why that wasn't going to be asked. But I made sure to look through all the applications to look for that specifically, because that is a question that is asked.
They were flagged. There were two individuals that applied for our district that had ties to law enforcement.
But of these two,
no, none of these people are
Okay,
none of these people are in your top two. And I would have told you, I would have been extremely, I mean, it was transparent in their application as well.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that. And then my name was invoked several times, so I just wanted to respond. I definitely think Esprit can be taken seriously. I've had interactions with her, and I think for clarifying some of the things that she did, while you were there, in terms of monitoring and keeping thorough records, I have no doubt, which is why she is at the list as well. And I thank you also, Mr. Edson, for talking about, as I said, I'm not familiar with Mr. Johnston, so sharing with me the political background, things that I wasn't aware. Just listening, I picked up a lot of knowledge, and it's a tough deliberation for me, but I thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to listen.
Well, that's what we're all here for, and deliberate and make the best choice for not just our district, but for the whole city. And so Heavenly has something that she would like to say. Heavenly, sorry, your hand up for me.
Yeah, I do have a quick question. I saw in the comments it was asked, how long is this position, once they're nominated or accepted into this position, how long does this position last before there would be a re-election for this?
I think she's talking about the Oversight Commission, and aren't they staggering the terms for that?
The term.
We are the council staggering the terms based on the way it's set up right now. There's no guarantee that I'm going to get a 4-year commitment, but based on my eligibility to be reelected, I'm out. There's 4 more years before another election. For me.
Well, I think I might not have phrased my question right, because I'm talking specifically about the applicants for the Oversight Police Committee. Or
are you asking about the terms for the applicants? Like how long? Right. And are those staggered? Like it could be 1, staggered. It could be 2, it could be 3 years. I don't know that.
That was 4, 2, and
1, 2, 3.
I think in the ordinance, I think it says 1, 2, 3.
1, 2.
Well, I think that's a good question for the applicants to know as well, how long they are committing to. I did have Derek Johnson at first, and as I'm listening and learning and realizing that someone mentioned, I think it was Charlie in the beginning, that I kind of thought that Derek would be the one who maybe can put more strength and power behind what the community wants to be heard, changed, formed. And then as I'm listening and thinking about myself as a Black woman, thinking about this is the year of the woman, and I'm like, well, Esprit would have automatically been my first person when I'm thinking about when we're talking about how knowledgeable. I have learned a lot actually from Spree since I've gotten to know her. And I thought for sure I thought of myself as a Black woman, the first thing I want to do is be sure that she knows she has our support completely. And if she needs some strength from us, if she needs us to back her up to make sure her voice is heard, that we are right here for you, Spree. So my number one is Spree.
Thank you. So like I said, it seems like there's a theme going.
Can I make a motion?
Muhammad, I think, he had his hand in.
Just one quick thing. I agree. It seems to me that Ms. Jones ought to be one, because I think it's important to recognize, I think for reasons that both Sofia and Marjani raised, that, this is a kind of community space. The community has to be the one that trusts the person who serves here. The cops don't need to trust that person. The cops are all powerful. They have their own thing going. The police department gets an overwhelming amount of money from the city's sort of discretionary budget. They have public information officers. They have all the tools they need to legitimize themselves. I think what the community needs is a strong voice and advocate for themselves and their own concerns. And it strikes me, based on what I'm hearing, that Ms. Jones is that person. So I'd vote for number one. I think the one thing for me, Ms. Robertson would be the number two. And there's only one kind of small reason why that's a big reason, but it's one thing that she said. I think she was the only one person here that mentioned listening to impacted people, so system impacted folks. And I think that, to me, is something I didn't hear that from anybody else. And I want to raise that as being something that ought to be important in whoever gets selected, that ought to be a consideration, that community folks push this commissioner to be really adamant about representing the needs of people who are impacted by policing and by the sort of carceral system. So those are the only 2 points that I wanted to make.
Perfect. Thank you. So one of you could make a motion, and then I would like for someone to second it, and then you can just raise your hands, actually your real hand, so that we can get a count. And if you could hold it for at least 10 seconds, that would be great.
I move to nominate
Spree.
Go ahead, Alan.
I move we nominate Spree Jones. Spree Jones.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, perfect. And then you can raise your hand if you're in favor. Pastor Manning, your camera's off, so I don't know. This is unanimous. So that's amazing. Ms. Jones, if you are watching, you will be our commissioner for the Police Community Oversight Commission. So thank you so much for applying. Really look forward to working with you, and super excited for you. Now, our plan was also to pick an alternate today, because if for any reason anything is to happen, I just want to make sure that we have a backup plan, because we have had people that have dropped out. And I'm not trying to put any doubt on it, but I would just like to have an alternate. And that alternate would be, if anybody wants a motion, Ms. Wilhelmina or our top two now for the alternate. Is there a motion for either one of those names?
I motion to nominate Derek Johnson.
I second it.
Yeah. Vote by raising hands. So how many hands do we have up here?
Not a lot.
We have 8. Okay. Is that enough?
Councilmember Hampton?
How many do we have on the line, Ms. Bell?
From what I can tell, there are 13 people who have weighed in here.
Oh, okay. So we have 9 hands up, or is that 8 hands up? Ms. Smith, are you raising your hand for Derek Johnson to be our alternate?
Yes.
So we have 9 hands up. So that passes. It looks like, unless, yeah, that passes. There's no second votes on that. So, well, thank you, everybody. Mrs. Spree Jones, you are our next commissioner, and Derek Johnson, you are our alternate. And our alternate would only play a role if there is something that comes up. So with that being said, once again, I want to thank everybody who participated, applied, put their hat in the ring, and then also to all of the community members here that took their time out of their day, their busy schedule, to just put their love and arms around our community. I'm, as one person who lives here, not just your city council member, I want to tell you that I'm grateful for each and every one of you. It just makes me proud to live in a city like this. So with that being said, everybody, I love you. If you're watching this, I love all the panelists. God bless you and good night.
Night.
We love you back.
Peace, brother.
Night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.